Okay, all right, let's go. Yes. This is one of my first big ones. Listen, I've had this on my mind for a long time, so you are lucky to witness it. Now, you're not here for my history and all that, but rather for how to improve your test automation script to be really, really effective. So I'm not going to offer you much humor. No. I'm going to give you facts. I'm going to give you data to substantiate what I'm here to propose that you do in your automation scripts to make your testing better. Because I'll tell you a quick story. When I was working in one company a couple of years ago, I was an automation test engineer writing API tests for a backend service for a bank. And I was a manual tester, a lady. She was Indian. Her name was Rika. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name. I don't think she's going to see this video anyway. Maybe she will. I hope she does, actually. We made good friends. Anyway, Risha was a manual tester. So here's the thing. I would run my scripts. She would do her manual testing. You know what? If I'm being honest, I didn't pick up much with my automation scripts. Because you know the things that devs did, they had schemas to validate, the payload, the structure and all that. So they always caught that stuff first. And I had a lot of time spent looking for those boundary values and all those things, and I was automating all that stuff, but I didn't pick much up. Risha, on the other hand, Rika, oh, she picked up a lot. Oh, some interesting defects. Listen, I got jealous. I said to myself, man, I love automation. I love testing as a whole. I love making sure that quality is good and on point. But I would wonder to myself, how can I pick those same defects that she does with my scripts? In sprint testing. In sprint test automation, you would say, right? Now, I know that's not really very practical in real life. I'll be honest. At least, when the teams I've worked in, of course, it's promoted and best practice, and it's something we say we should do, but it doesn't really work hard in real life, does it? Not often. But I say in sprint test automation in the context of the automation being intelligent enough to refresh itself with new functionality, with old functionality, even with the same functionality, but it must refresh itself to present almost a new use case within the same scenario. Hear me out. You see, the reason test automation doesn't pick up much of what manual testing does, and manual testing is beautiful, I advocate for that all the time, 100%. But the reason test automation doesn't pick some of that stuff up is very simple. Because it's static, right? Because you've got your input criteria set on fixed values. You've got this year already set. You've got this subscription, this region, this location, this address, this subscriber, this customer. It's fixed settings. And of course you need a fixed set. You need a base because you want to know, you want to control the environment so you can predict the outcome. So you can say, if I feed this fixed set of input, will I get what I expect? And if you vary the input, then how can you know what to expect? And then how can you automate? Well, this is where, my friends, I come to propose something of an intelligent technique. And this will give you something that, while you will maintain a static, and not very static, a limited, a constrained, this is the best term to describe it, a constrained set of input values. And these constraints must be parameters that are within a valid input range, right? The parameters must be within a valid input range, but they are not fixed into the same instance, into the same value. It's not a 5 or a 10 that we're always pushing a 10. I'm saying validity for use cases almost in every scenario you can think of is constrained to a valid subset, a range of values. I'm saying allow your automation script to vary within that range. But don't allow it to go outside of that, because then you don't know what to expect. You can't predict the outcome. But within a valid fixed set, I say allow it to vary then. By doing that, picking up within a valid range, 100, 1,000 of database values, valid range. You can pick up each and every one of them at any point in time. But you know that they are constrained to a valid input for the use case, for the test case, right? That allows the automation to have this dynamicity. This very factor that makes manual testing so powerful. You know, one thing you have to think about is the fact that in production, we don't actually refresh the data set. Whilst in test automation you do. You clean up your test data. Even after running your test scripts and records get created in a database, you can clean them up. You do that. I know you have a before hook, a before all hook that does cleanup. I know about it. You think I know about that. Well, let me tell you something. There is no before hook that cleans up in production. And you see that very fact right there takes away so much from our test automation. I say, allow the variety. I say allow the data to grow old. Do you know how you can deploy a V1 of a product and go to a V2 and go to a V3 with the customer record that gets created on a V1 that has to live through a V2, live through a V3? But in your test automation, every time you get a V3, you want to create a data set that is compatible with the V3? I'm saying, you're not wrong. I'm saying you're not wrong. You're validating what the devs are doing and you're making sure that it works. But I'm saying in production, it's a little different. It's a whole different ballgame. You know, they say production is the most honest test environment. I think you already know that I'm a big fan of that statement. Now, I don't want you to write automation that isn't reliable and flaky and, you don't really know what you're going to get. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying constraint. I'm saying if you have 10, I don't know what your product is. Let's take a bank, for example, right? The customer's got an address. He's got an age. He's got a catalog. He's got product X, product Y, product Z. He's got a whole lot of stuff. Some products that he may have subscribed and canceled. He's got a whole lot of things. What I'm saying is this. That's not just the only customer. There's 1,000 more with 1,000 variations. I'm saying for you to validate like production, for you to make sure that your product is equipped and has the quality that will live through production and not break, implement a test automation framework that has the intelligence that mimics the behavior that production presents. Because production is, as much as it is very predictable, because we know the customer, we have analytics, we've got all these things, and to be honest, most automation that I've seen doesn't even feed that feedback into the test automation. But that's a whole different topic. I'm gonna have to do another one for that one. Let's just stick to this basic thing here, right? You have a whole lot of things that are dynamic and living data. That's what production is. It's living data. And to test automation, what we tend to do is create dead data. I'm against it. Write a backend service. Small API. It doesn't have to be a fancy thing. Write a small service, a backend API, right? Put your test data in a database somewhere. Come on, you can do that in 2 days, 3 days, a week, who knows? It doesn't matter, but you can do that pretty quickly nowadays, right? You just slap a simple backend API that's going to fetch your input data. You could use keyword-driven framework if you want to fix something. Say, for example, you say, I want a valid customer. That is, you create these keywords that speak to use cases that you've got to test. And then you know that you define the criteria for those keywords, that how they're going to pull the data in the database, right? And then you pull that out through an API. And then you pull that, because that's the level of test automation you've got to be doing. The days of I'm just going to put an Excel and I'm going to put a a JSON file and put some nice like 5 input parameters and say that's my test and my automation is 100%. It's not enough. How many third parties does your system integrate with? All those dependencies are not predictable. That's why I'm such a big fan of SDET, software development, software engineer in test, right? Because these days we actually write software as testers, don't we? Yeah, these days we've got to write software. We don't just test it. We write software to test software. And what excuse have you got? We've got AI anyway. Anyway, I've been long, but I wanted to share that. But before I leave you with just that, I'm going to make an example in the code, okay? It's going to be pretty simple. Let's jump in there.